I'm glad so many people enjoyed the rundown of my car history. If you guys remember, I had crashed my Triple S Pulsar, I still had my VL Turbo, and I had my YVN. I was in a bit of a pickle because I had all these cars and I didn't really have much money, and I was in the process of selling the crashed Pulsar, and this forced me to make the biggest mistake I've ever made. Sell my VL Turbo. I posted up on Facebook for $4,000 I think, all for swaps. And somebody offered me something which I thought was really awesome at the time. It was a pretty low K's manual Cosmo Purple VY S-Pack. Now I was pretty keen on this swap. This car was registered, it was interstate, but that didn't really faze me too much. But it was really in good nick and it had full service history from Holden. I'll show up some pictures now. It had the purple checkered cloth seats, which I really liked. It had a sub and amp, and it just looked like a really great car anyway. So I was pretty keen on the swap. Now the bloke that had it actually lives in South Australia. You'll notice that it was on South Australian plates. So he drove all the way down to Victoria and we swapped, and he picked up my VL and drove it back, and that was the last time I ever saw that car. Anyway, the VY S-Pack was a fantastic car. I went and took it for a roadworthy. It really needed nothing, and that's when it all went wrong. I parked up the VY out the front of Vic Roads, went inside to hand over my transfer papers and the roadworthy that I'd gotten that morning. Now it was 2 o'clock on like a Wednesday afternoon, and some junkie was doing donuts in his mum's VS, and he lost control in the middle of the day and hit my car, hit the car that was next to it, and went through the fence of the dealership. In this process, not only was the VS ruined, my car was written off, the little Corolla or whatever it was written off, and one of the cars that went through the fence, I believe, was also written off. Fortunately for me, my car was insured. That was okay. However, what a waste of a car. I'd only had the car for a week and it was already written off. You know, it's not often that you see a VY S-Pack manual in that colour with less than 200,000 Ks, and I had one for about a week and it was ruined. I did buy the wreck back and I sold it to a mate. The running gear ended up going in a pad car and it got off so many sets before the motor let go. But so the car wasn't wasted in the end, but yeah, it was a shame. However, this purple VY had sort of ignited something in me. I'd never had that series of Commodore before, so I was looking for another VY exactly the same, and I wanted an S-Pack because I was still on my P's. It must be manual, and I wanted a good colour like that Cosmo Purple. I ended up finding a hothouse green one in Sydney. Like I said in my previous videos, I live in Victoria. I saw that car. It had 115,000 Ks. It looked really good in the photos. Leather interior, manual, looked really good, and ended up booking a flight, flying over there, meeting the bloke at the airport, and driving it back with some mates. This car, however, while it was okay, it made the drive back without a hitch. It just wasn't as good as it looks in the photos. It had a crease down the passenger side, lots of little bits to touch up. It honestly would have cleaned up pretty well if I'd cared for it, but I don't know. I don't know what it was, but I just never really loved this car, and I ended up swapping it for this next car. This was a 2006 VZS Ute. It was a 6-speed manual. It was in really good condition when I bought it, and I'll show you a photo of it now, and it might look a bit gross, but here is what it looked like after I had my touch. This VZ was actually one of the best cars that I've ever had. It had around 210,000 when I bought it, and I think I sold it with about 270, 280. Now, I did not have one issue with this car while I was driving. This car was reliable as anything. It always went. It had excellent fuel economy. It was such a good car, and I know VZs get a lot of hate, and some of them are, you know, not great, but this one, I don't know what it was about this VZ, but it never stepped a foot wrong the entire time I had it. I had this car for almost 2 years. I put SS headlights in it, SS fog lights in it, SS steering wheel. I put some half leather seats in it and some door cards. I put the SS black headlining and black plastics and everything SS in the interior except the seats. This was one of the best cars that I had, and I sold it for $5,500, and I actually think that was a really fair price. Even in today's market, I think I was pretty happy with that. But it was a really nice, tidy, clean ute. There was really nothing dishonest about it. I never thrashed it. I always treated it nicely, and the car was nice back to me. While this ute still is around, it's actually not that far from me, and I saw it recently, and it's really buggered. It's totally wrecked now, which is a shame because in its heyday, when I had it, I believe, it was looking fantastic. I had every type of wheels on it. I had some HSVI Sabres, I had Stockies for a while, I had Swirlies, I had SIGs, I had some HSVI Fluxus wheels, I had some VS V6 wheels. I was always changing it up. It was a really great car this year. While I was going through all that stuff with the two VYs and the blue VZ, I did manage to fit a VN Calais in that mix. Now this car was my first ever V8. If you watched my previous video, I did mention that I wanted to sell the white VN. It's really because this popped up and I thought, oh, a V8, this will be so much better. And anyway, it was only about $2,000 at the time, and I went and picked it up, and I was so happy with this car. It did have a little bit of bog in one of the quarters. That is one downside. However, the upsides, I think, far outweigh it. It had excellent leather. The paint and panel was excellent other than that one little spot. Leather interior, running gear was fantastic. It was an old Vietnam veterans car, so it had lots of original old bloke stuff. It was just a really, really honest car, and honestly, if I'd had it now, I would have just paid to get that quarter fixed. It really was not even that bad, but you know, it is what it is. I did have this car for a while actually. I ended up putting pacemakers on it and put some stockies on it and did a few things. But at this point in time, I had about 5 cars and my money pool was running pretty low. So didn't do too much to it really. And when I went to sell it, I had it for sale for about 5 months for $3,000 with 12 months rego. That's what I ended up selling it for. So it's a shame how cheap I sold it for, but it is what it is. The car wasn't perfect, but honestly, for that money, it was fantastic. It was a very tidy, honest car, and I really have no idea where it's ended up. Now this VN was the next car. I actually had this and the VN 5-litre Calais at the same time. Now I have made so many videos about this thing, so I'm not going to go crazy in depth with it in this. When I bought it, it was a manual V6, and it stayed that way for quite a few years. This car really needed a lot of time and money spent on it, especially to make it what it is today. I'll throw some photos up of what it looked like when I got it, and it really is jarring on how far this car has come since then. Now this car was actually never advertised on Facebook or Gumtree or anything. The bloke that I had bought the VN Calais 5-litre off actually texted me and said, hey mate, I've got a VN, if you're interested, let me know. And he sent me a photo of it up on a tow truck. Now that photo is actually significant because I saw that this had a drop tank, which is something that I was really looking for at the time. Anyway, I say, yep mate, I'll take it. How much do you want for it? $2,000 is what I ended up paying for this car. I drove all the way out there, and as soon as I saw it in the driveway, I knew that I had to have it. There were a lot of things wrong with it. It had the worst exhaust leak you can imagine. It had some Hyundai springs in it, so it was very, very low and uncomfortable. Someone had tried to steal it, so it had a big hole in the driver's door. The amount of time and money that it has taken to get to this level is unreal. This car now is a cammed manual 5-litre. If you're interested in this car, I have made tons of videos about it. I believe this was in 2017, so I have had this car for quite some time now, and there are absolutely no plans to sell it. When I had the white VN, I felt like I was missing something, and I thought what I was missing was the 5-litre. When I bought the VN Calais 5-litre, as good as the car as it was, I realised I actually missed having a manual more. So I thought, well, I'll have a manual V8. Into the end, and I really hope you enjoyed this content. Just a bit of transparency, I have no scripts, I have no bullet points or anything. I recorded all of these videos right from the top of my head, and that is really how passionate I am about these cars. I believe I have about another 16 cars to do, so probably another 3 videos in this series. If that's something you'd like to see, or if you like my other videos of me walking around the cars, then feel free to follow along and have a look what I'm doing.